Far Cry 5 is around the corner, and I don't know about you, but I am super excited for Far Cry 5. Now, I know that I shouldn't just be like hyping up games and stuff, but I'm going to tell you all that I love Far Cry. I don't know if you know this, but I've loved every single Far Cry game ever since I was first introduced into the series, which was Far Cry 2. I never played the original, and I may actually play the original just like to understand where it all started, but the first game that I ever played was Far Cry 2, and ever since then, I loved Far Cry, like whether it be a spin-off or part of the main series. And when I mean spin-off, I'm talking about like Blood Dragon and Primal. And Far Cry, the reason why I loved it so much was because it was a very, very fun single-player experience, but they also had some very creative ways to enhance the game even further with its like the map editor. And they did have like multiplayer experiences in there, like whether it be PvP, co-op, or whatever. But every single one was like a little bit different on how they worked their multiplayer. If they had it, that is. Like the spin-offs didn't have multiplayer. But Far Cry 3 I was really excited for because it looked very interesting. They were going to have the map editor, and it was going to have PvP. And I do remember playing a lot of like the Far Cry 2 multiplayer, the PvP, but it was very like generic, and same thing happened to like Far Cry 3's multiplayer. A lot of people didn't really like notice it and care too much about it because it just didn't catch many people's attention because it didn't stand out. But the map editor was like the main thing that stood out for a lot of people, and I believe in Far Cry 3 did this as well, but Far Cry 4 I know did this as well, where the map editor would also work where you were able to do these solo missions where there would be like an objective, so it didn't have to be just like a multiplayer map, and that was an interesting addition. And I know that Far Cry 4 did have like a PvP, but it wasn't really like the team deathmatch kind of Far Cry multiplayer experience that Far Cry 2 and 3 had. But either way, it was intense because of the map editor. There was a lot of creativity involved with that. They also had, of course, the spin-offs, but those ones never had any sort of like multiplayer experience added to them. I really wish they did because Blood Dragon was a great game. I really wish that they did like a full title with it, but I understood that, you know, maybe like the developers thought to themselves like we would like to make this a full game, but we don't really know how we could work that to being a $60 game and having a long, interesting story and like multiplayer experience like the other main titles. I know that I think they did say that they may look into making a Blood Dragon 2 and making it like an official launch title. But either way, seeing more Blood Dragon is amazing. But it doesn't have to be Blood Dragon. Like another perfect example was Far Cry Primal. Now I know a lot of people have mixed opinions about Primal because, and this is the primary reason, is it was found out that they took the Far Cry 4 map and just edited it to be fitting the timeline for Far Cry Primal. They just basically reused assets. But it was, when I played it, it felt like a whole different experience from Far Cry 4 where I just didn't really care. It was, again, to me, it was like a spin-off like Blood Dragon, and I really, really liked it. It was really interesting to take away the guns and just give us spears and stuff, being cavemen and stuff, and having that kind of experience. It was a lot of fun. I really liked it, and I always thought that what it would be like if they added the map editor and the PvP experience to Primal and Blood Dragon, like what that would be like, because like with all that stuff together, it's a huge experience that I love with Far Cry. But with Far Cry 5, now I've been excited for it ever since they teased it, because you know me, as this point of this video, I love Far Cry. A lot of you now know, but the other one was that my curiosity of what about the map editor and PvP. Now, I was at first worried thinking that they were not going to have it because they've been very, very silent about it, but they've been throwing out way too much content about the single player experience, which I purposely have not been watching because I didn't want to get spoiled of the game, because it looked like they were just like giving us pretty much the entirety of the experience with their videos, which is okay. It's marketing that way, but I feel like they should like step it back a bit, so then like it's more of a surprise to a lot of more players. But just recently, they released two videos that took my attention, which was showing off the season pass and post-launch content, and showing off the map editor itself. And like, to my surprise, they're taking everything that was doing well with like the other Far Cry games and putting it into Far Cry 5. So they had like a co-op experience in Far Cry 4 for the single player. They have that in Far Cry 5. But they also had this like thing in, I think it was Far Cry 4, where they had the map editor, and you could do co-op with these like maps that had objectives and stuff that acted like the single player that people in the community would make. They have that in Far Cry 5 as well. They also brought back PvP, like a 12-player like PvP mode. So that's good too. Like, they're taking, it seems like, every step in the right direction for this game, because I feel like Far Cry, even though it was kind of generic of a mode, the PvP, the 6v6 kind of mode was a lot of fun, and it was really needed for these multiplayer maps, because for the map editor, because it allowed those players who were like, yeah, I don't want to do co-op with a buddy in these story missions that people created. I just want to like play a generic shooter on these cool maps and do it that way. So I'm glad to see that they're returning with that. I don't know how it will play, but I remember how clunky PvP felt in Far Cry 2. So, I mean, just even if they were to make it just like Far Cry 3's PvP, where it was again kind of generic, I'd still love the multiplayer for Far Cry 5. But this is what shocked me. And normally I never get excited for Season Pass stuff or DLC, because it's like, cool, you know, you're going to be releasing content that I don't really care about, where I feel like it should have been in the base game or whatever. But watching the trailer was like watching 3 separate Far Cry titles. They're going to have 3 separate content drops where they're co-op, I think, all of them, but it's crazy that there was one that you play in Vietnam, so it's like, it looks like a Far Cry Vietnam game. Then the next one, you're in space fighting aliens, like not just like, oh, you know, you're fighting just dudes in suits. No, you're fighting these aliens in space, and it looks like a Far Cry space game, like as if it was like a standalone game like Blood Dragon and stuff. And then after that, there's a zombie one, and it looks like as if like Far Cry were to do a zombie game. Like, they're super like diverse in what they look like, to the point where I'm like, wow, holy shit, for once I'm actually like, this season pass is like what I would want. Because most of the time, whenever I want to get a season pass or like want to get DLC for a game, I want it to feel different. I want it to feel like it's adding something special to the game, not just like gluing something that they probably cut from the game into, you know, the game. But it looks a lot of fun. But they talked about how many objects they'll have for the map editor, which is like 9,000 plus, and then they're going to be adding more objects as these content drops get released. So you'll be able to use like the objects from those DLCs, from like the space one, the Vietnam one, and the zombie one. So you can make some crazy stuff. And I'm just sitting here jaw dropped, because I'm like, holy crap, they shocked the hell out of me, because I thought, in my opinion, I thought it was going to be like, you know, oh, it's got a map editor, PvP. You can make all the stuff. You can make it look like a desert map or a snow map, you know, how other Far Cry's, but they're like, hey, no, we got fucking zombies and space and stuff coming out in the DLC, so there's a reason for you to actually care about the season pass, rather than it being like, we're adding maps, even though people can just make maps. Like, that'd be pointless. So the fact that they're doing it this way is really, really good. And I really hope the game is a great success. But I'm not going to give too much positivity. I've heard rumors that there will be microtransactions, and I hope that they go down the road where it's not pay to win and it's not ridiculous. Now, if it's a single player like Assassin's Creed Origins where there's microtransactions, I guess I really don't care, because as long as it doesn't feel like I'm forced to do that. Like if I feel like I'm running low on ammo like majority of the time because of these like microtransaction systems compared to the other Far Cry games, because when I grinded into like beating Far Cry like Primal or Far Cry 4 or 3, any of them, I would get to the point where I had so much stuff and I had so much money because I beat everything, I took out all the outposts, so I didn't even have to bother with spending too much money on anything. I unlocked everything. So if it's like that, where you have to still play through the game to get the stuff, then I don't care. And if it's like microtransactions that is specifically for the single player, then I don't mind. But for the PvP, since they're bringing 6v6, I really don't want to see a pay to win into that whatsoever. But with how many loot box controversies that's been going on, I'm pretty sure Ubisoft is really not going to go take that step, that riskful step, when they obviously want people to love this game. They really want them to play this game and buy it. So there's my my little layer of negativity that I still am like not super hyped, but you know, I'm cautious. But would I recommend this game for you guys? Well, I don't know, because I haven't played it yet. This is more along the lines of like a hype video, like a video where I'm just wanting to talk about this, because the thing is that there's not many games that are catching my interest except for like Monster Hunter World. Sadly, Destiny 2 released as a disappointment, and there's the only like real big game out there is Fortnite. And I do like Fortnite, but it's not like a game that I'm really that into. You just land in and then you start fighting and then there's a winner and then that's it. Like it's not like it's like Destiny and stuff where there's so many different things that you can do. I mean, I know there's a PvE mode in Fortnite, but it's just not that kind of game for me, for a like for the stance of like a game for me, that is. Maybe for you, but not for me. I like to have games like Halo, Gears of War, the whole Destiny, and Far Cry. The reason why I love it so much is because it's a single player experience with the added now co-op, and it's got its multiplayer experience as well. But even if it was like only single player, I've always loved Far Cry on that alone. Like, as I said, I really liked Primal and I loved Blood Dragon. There was no multiplayer inside those games whatsoever. But either way, I'm just very excited for Far Cry 5. More excited than I was for Far Cry 4. I don't really know what was mainly making me not so excited for it, like for the get on the hype train, because, I mean, again, I told you I love Far Cry, so if it's got Far Cry in the title, I'm most likely going to be excited. I think it was primarily because of the chosen area for the game, the environment, the villain, and just like the marketing, the hype that they decided to go with. It just didn't catch my attention. Like, yeah, I was like, wow, co-op. But Far Cry 3 was more exciting for me because the villain seemed very interesting. The settings seemed very interesting, and I was very hyped for the PvP, the multiplayer experience, the co-op experience and stuff that they were going to have in Far Cry 3, which they did have a co-op experience. It was kind of meh. You played as like separate characters. You couldn't play co-op on like the main world. But Far Cry 4, they were like, yeah, we got co-op in the main world, and I wasn't even that hyped. But I still played it, and I still enjoyed it. But I'm more hyped with Far Cry 5 because it seems more Far Cry than Far Cry 4 to me. Far Cry 4 was fun, but it just didn't catch my interest when it was like being released. Like, it wasn't that big, and I do remember me loving the game, but not loving it as much as I did like with Far Cry 3. So with Far Cry 5, I do hope that it releases well. Ubisoft, you know, do us proud, release a good game, because right now I really want to have something to play for the spring, and who knows, and even the summer, if it's that great of a game to last that long for me. because I mean, there's not that many games. I'm used to having like 10 games that I can play, and like 5 of them that I absolutely love and I want to replay every single day. Now I have like 2 that I want to replay every single day. But even then, that's like sometimes. So I look forward to this game. But in the comments down below, I want to know your thoughts on Far Cry. Like, do you like the Far Cry series? Are you hyped for Far Cry 5? Do you think that the game is going to be a lot of fun? Do you think that they might take microtransactions too far if the rumors are true? What's your thoughts? Like, do you care? Do you not care? And of course, if you guys want to see Far Cry 5 content on this channel of me playing it, please let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, make sure to leave a like on this video for Far Cry hype. Thank you so much for listening. Chibi out.